Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well. It's been a while since I've done a video, so I just wanted to get something going here. It's been just so busy. I know everybody's busy, but all right. So into January 2025, I'm just gonna jump all over the place from thing to thing to thing. It's been a lot going on in cards. Been a lot going on for me in cards, just in terms of collecting and buying and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. The first thing I wanted to do was just say thank you to Iowa Dave. I had the privilege of being a guest on the Shallow End, his podcast last week, and that was a blast. Big fan of Dave as a collector and as a follow on Instagram, as a person, really nice dude, all that sort of a thing. So was really flattered to be on the show. Had a blast talking with Dave about cards. Usually I'm just here talking by myself and just rambling through whatever and talking with people in messages or in comments and that sort of a thing. So, sitting down face to face with another human being, was really fun. Just, I know, we're all very busy and it's really tough to find time to do that kind of stuff. But it was great. We had a great talk. Lots of people reached out to me afterwards, just sent messages and just, talked about, certain parts of the conversation, things they could sort of identify with. Yeah. And we were really kind of all over the place. Dave, I really enjoy his approach to the hobby and the kind of fundamental concepts that he gets into on the Shallow End. And so we talked about just kind of being, reflecting on purchase history. We talked about just overall sentiment, engagement broadly in the hobby. We talked about value. We talked about price. We talked about we talked about so much stuff. It's like off the top of my head without having my notes or whatever. It's kind of hard to even, think about all the different subjects. But yeah, it was really great. And it was, just totally fun. So go check that out. Make sure you subscribe to the Shallow End on the podcast feed. And he has a YouTube channel as well. So yeah, and I know he just put up a new episode this morning with Dylan, which I watched, and that was really great as well. So yeah, definitely check that out. Today, card-wise, what we're going to look at here is I bought a big lot of the 56 Elvis set. This was probably my first significant purchase of the year, which was very early in January. I don't really think of this as like a collection purchase, so to speak. It is, there's certain cards from this lot that I'm definitely going to grade and keep, and then others that I'll just kind of set aside, put in top loaders or whatever, and some I'll sell. So really a combination of everything. But the focus of the lot, I suppose I could start with that, was, let's see. Really what it came down to was just a few cards. First and foremost would be the card number 1, which I have several copies of now. If you saw my last video, I showed this 5 at the end, which I consider this my sort of primary collection copy, forever card, whatever you want to say. PSA 5, there's not many of these graded. There's probably only about 200 copies of this card graded across all grades. Centering on these cards is brutal. The fish eyes, the print dots are brutal, very, very nasty on some of them. So condition on this set, as you would expect from 1956 tops, is just all over the place. So the focus of this lot purchase was this card. Get it out of the top loader here and I'll show you. And we got another copy of card number 1 here. If this card hadn't been in the lot, I wouldn't even have bought it, but I thought this was a nice looking copy. It is probably not as nice as my 5. It's definitely not going to grade a 5. It's got a wrinkle on the top right corner there. Got a little bit of The surface looks really good though. I think the guitar looks really nice, which is something I've kind of been looking at even more on these cards, because with that solid red background, if you get those little dots in there, it really kind of bums me out. Registration on this one is nice. I'm trying to see, there's some bending on a lot of these cards. And I'll show you some really bad ones here as we go. I'm not really familiar, and let me know in the comments if you know how this, it's like in and out of focus, there you see, how PSA, what their criteria is on like warps and bends and that type. I mean, obviously if it's got a wrinkle or a crease or whatever, it's going to be a lower grade card. I guess I'm just not that familiar with like warps and bends. So, but yeah, this is a really nice copy. Again, I think I won the lot for like $300, and this card I was about like I was valuing, like, to me, I wanted, like, I would have bought this if it was about 125, 150, somewhere in that range, just as is. I put this 5, I paid right around 200 for. So, I knew this obviously wasn't going to be a 5, but I just thought, you know, value-wise, anything around that sort of 100, 125, 150, I would be fine with. And I have other copies, so like I could kind of sell some of these less attractive copies that I have, or at least list them and try to sort of consolidate a bit. I listed 2 copies for sale on eBay this morning of card number 1. Not specifically related to this purchase, but I actually just picked up another card last night, another Elvis card that I'll talk about in future videos, but I put both these up. These are probably my worst 2. Look, the 2 copies I have that have the worst eye appeal, I would say. I listed them at $75 and $125 respectively. With I know I have a 10% off sale going on right now, so it'd be cheaper than that. But I think this one is pretty brutal. That I would assume that right, yeah, I see the creases there. This one I actually listed higher. This one I put up for $125. I think there's only one other raw copy on the market right now, and I felt like this one actually looks better, and that other raw copy was listed around like 90 or something like that. So this one is, the centering's okay, the registration's okay. A lot of those dots on the guitar there, don't like that. Just some general, yeah, I mean, it's not a beautiful copy. It's not terrible though. I mean, when you're comparing it to what else is available, it's not really that bad. But yeah, so I threw it up. We'll see. We'll see if there's any interest on it. It probably likely will just sit there for a while and probably won't sell until I get around to grading it. But yeah, not a bad card. So, but I've got like 6 copies of this now, so I don't need that many. So that was the better looking of the 2, I would say. And then what was this? So that one's up. And then this one I thought was a little bit worse, so I priced it at, I think I priced this one at $85. Just to, so I think, yeah, I think this one's got a couple bends and creases on it. And the problem with this one is the registration is just really, really not good. So, yeah, this is kind of fuzzy. A lot of dots on the guitar there. Pretty bad fisheye in the upper right-hand corner. But yeah, the registration on this one is just so brutal. It's not a fun card to look at. Somebody might want it. Who knows? I don't know. Like, I didn't pay that much for this. This probably cost me like $20, but... and even if it is like kind of an ugly copy, still $20 for a 1956 Elvis Presley #1, you know, possibly the first standard size Topps card. I just felt like that was just ridiculously cheap, and you know, I'm happy to own it for $20. So yeah, but if I can make a few bucks off it, that'd be great. we'll see what happens. I would expect those to sit for a while. Not a lot of people are venturing into the Elvis market right now the way I am. So that's that. A little bit of context on why I bought the lot. Now let's get into some more of the cards. So those two are for sale. So I guess we'll do a side-by-side here. I put this back in the top loader, but my two copies, probably my, I don't know if, I have a few others that are pretty nice looking, but I don't think I have anything as nice looking overall as this 5. But this one on the left here is not bad. It wouldn't grade a 5, but it's still a very, very nice looking copy. So happy to own that. And it doesn't actually have that print line in the middle like the graded version does here. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, that's a card I want to own a few of. So we got those. The other core cards in the I've been posting a lot of these like just other like lower tier cards from the there's 66 cards in the set. The last 20 are all the last 20 cards are not very desirable. They're all just screen or captures from Love Me Tender, his first film, and they look like this. Just shots from the movie. Really not crazy about these at all, to be completely honest. I never would have bought these if they just weren't in the lot, but here they are. So some of these are just in terrible condition. But again, like the primary focus of it really was this copy, and then some other cards I'll show, but just kind of flip through these real quick. Clinton Cathy. Actually, that's not a bad card. I think because, oh, that's actually a really nice copy there. The main characters there, that's really solid. The centering's bad, but the surface is beautiful on that one. Yeah, and then on the back, you'll see they're different than the Ask Elvis. So this number 1 in a series of 20 scenes from Love Me Tender, starring Deborah Paget, 20th Century Fox picture. Okay, so yeah, main characters there. That's actually a nice copy. That's one I'll just throw in a top loader. But yeah, and then you see some warping on that one. Yeah, so then the rest of these are just kind of whatever, but it gives you an idea. Let's go through these a little slower here. It gives you an idea of just how terrible the condition can be. Like on the centering, like that's a dead centered card there. That's really nice. Interesting enough, I've stumbled upon an old article. That's a really solid card. I wonder, that's actually really sharp. There's only 5 10s, period, in total for the entire set. There's an old article from like 10 years ago about a guy that collected this set pretty seriously, and he had both the 10s. But look at the centering on that card. Absolutely atrocious. So that one's dead. That one's pretty nice. Yeah. But these are just not attractive cards. This one's kind of cool, I guess, just because you got Elvis singing. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I've been writing a lot of this sort of historical synopsis about these cards. And a big part of collecting Elvis has been going through thousands, and I mean thousands of images on Getty Image Archives and pairing up the image with the card. So for example, I'll show you here in a little bit, but I've been posting them on Instagram and then trying to provide context, like writing a few paragraphs about what each card, what the image was, what the circumstances were, the history behind the given image, et cetera, and then sort of how it kind of reflected whatever was going on with Elvis at the time. Because this is a little different than sports, where it's like you can kind of know, oh, this was at that game, or this was a big home run from this season, or whatever. A lot of this stuff, and especially being from 1956, this was really Elvis's breakout year. Just like Mickey Mantle in 56 was the Triple Crown, Elvis was, becoming the most famous person on the planet in 1956. So there's a ton of photography from back then about all these, about all this, kind of stuff. And it's all about just figuring out what was what image was what, like what show was, this is one of the nicer cards here, like what show was this from? I'm trying to figure out, was this on the stage show? Was this Milton Berle? Was this Ed Sullivan? Which appearance was it? Was it the Steve Allen show? And that's been really fun because like I'm, doing a lot of learning about Elvis right now. I'm reading The Last Train to Memphis. I've watched The Searcher twice, the definitive kind of documentary. I've watched so much stuff like on Elvis, so many videos over and over again. Just really been going deep into my kind of Elvis knowledge here. This is actually a beautiful copy now that I look at it. And it's cool because you get Scotty Moore. I think that's Scotty Moore right there, the guitar player off to the side of Elvis, because there's not a lot of cards where you get Scotty and DJ Fontana was the drummer. I think Bill Black was the stand-up bass player. Apologies if I'm wrong about that. But that's pretty sharp. You can see Elvis probably sort of mid move there. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out like what show was this from. I know it's not an Ed Sullivan show, but it could have been one of the stage show appearances or something like that. But yeah, so a lot of that kind of stuff. And then when I figure it out, I write a little synopsis and I post that on Instagram. So this card here might seem kind of all fun and games, Elvis singing to a dog. This I know was on the Steve Allen show, and Elvis appeared on Steve Allen, which was like a David Letterman or a Jay Leno, whatever, before any of his Ed Sullivan appearances. And originally Ed Sullivan had there was an offer on the table by Colonel Parker for Elvis to appear on the Sullivan show for like $5,000, and I think Ed Sullivan really didn't want anything to do with it. Elvis was controversial at the time, sort of a hot button issue in terms of the more conservative minds of the time as it related to music and what was, crossing the line and that type of thing. Elvis was, we think of him now as just, this guy from a long time ago, or not the collective or not us, but the collective. It's like when we're kids, we're like, oh, that's somebody that our grandparents liked, and we don't really understand how just kind of rebellious and new and sort of establishment shaking Elvis was at his time. So this card was when he went on Steve Allen. Steve Allen kind of made a mockery of all of it. Obviously, Elvis, Hound Dog was a big song of his, big hit. So Steve Allen had the idea of, okay, we'll have this guy sing to an actual dog. Elvis, he was a nice kid, went along with it, all that kind of a thing. But Priscilla Presley said in a variety of interviews I've seen that after this, Elvis really didn't like Steve Allen very much. And other people were saying basically Steve Allen was trying to, just sort of make a joke out of the whole quote unquote rock and roll fad as it was deemed at the time by people in the space. So that's kind of what that was. In knowing that, like I have a little bit of a different, I think this card is not very good. Not one in the set that I'm, super stoked on or anything. And I don't really find it like one of the more desirable items. I think this card on the right is quite a bit cooler to me. Obviously it's neat to know the history and all that, but knowing that kind of stuff definitely gives you a different feeling about the cards and such. So this one here, I just did a little bit of a sort of a little bit of a write-up this morning that I'm going to post later on Instagram. Talking about just Elvis and his connection to the fans and the audience in general. I think that's a big part of Elvis that I was not familiar with prior to kind of getting into this stuff. I was listening to an interview with Johnny Cash, and he was asked, who's the greatest, who's the best ever, yada, yada. And he said, as far as performing goes and connecting to an audience, he said, nobody can touch Elvis Presley. And you really see that when you start watching his videos, how charismatic he is, how he connects, it's just one of those people where when he talks, it sounds like he's talking directly to you. And obviously that must have deeply resonated with people at the time because it was just an absolute mania, especially with the teenagers and the kids, like you can see here. So the Fan's Friend, I'm going to post a picture of this one later. If you follow me on Instagram, you can see it over there. But I think that's a neat card. Again, not a card I would have just bought, and you could probably get that card for like $2, but it was in the lot. So Let's look at some more of these. If I hold these up together, you can get an idea again of the warping. I was not familiar with how bad that was going to be. I don't think it would have impacted my decision to buy the lot, because again, it really was about that card number 1 and just a couple others. So, but you got Hound Dog here, probably one of the better cards in the set. I know some people would probably consider this one of their favorite cards in the set, actually, just because of how cool it looks, the image there. Actually a pretty nice copy aside from the warping. You got a clean red guitar, nice decent centering, good color, a couple little fish eyes and wrinkles there, but overall nice sharp looking card. Not one that I'll grade or whatever, but I'm really getting into top loader binders now, so probably something I'll throw in there, just kind of have it. But yeah, I would call this, for me, I would call it outside of the sort of, when I think about this set, I think there's a big, I think there's 2 main core cards, card number 1, and then another card that I'll talk about later in another video. But I think there's 2 core cards, and then I'd say there's probably 1 other card that can sort of creep up to that level. Again, this is just all my subjective opinion. And then I would say there's two others. I would say there's like a big 5, and I would put this card more like in the kind of like the Big 10 category. If I was doing like some, and I'll do some maybe in the future, I'll do like a ranking of all the cards from, you know, worst to best. But yeah, I would definitely put this in sort of the top tier overall, and I think other people might even put it higher than me. So yeah, but great card. There was 2 copies of that in the lot. This one's actually better in terms of it's worse in terms of the centering, but no, it's still a little, got some more fish eyes and stuff, but not terrible. Just not a card I'm gonna spend money to grade right now or anything like that. I think this is a cool one. I've got a few copies of this one, Elvis with the police escort security detail. Elvis was a very serious collector himself, and he collected badges. I'll tell you a crazy story some other time, but yeah, he collected, you know, this was later in life, but he collected a lot of badges from different law enforcement agencies and departments and that type of thing. So very cool imagery there. This is pretty bad on the centering, but nice looking card. I've got some better looking ones of that I've bought as singles, but this is the one that came in the lot. This one here on the motorcycle, this is from a certain photography session. I believe the last name was Werheimer or that might be wrong, but Werthenheimer, something to that effect. Apologies, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but this was a really special photography session where this gentleman followed Elvis around right as he was kind of breaking out in 55, and got like a ton of really good photographs. So a few cards from the set are from that session. Really special stuff. You can see all that on the Getty Image Archives, but just Elvis and his motorcycle there, pretty cool. And again, not a special like top tier card in the set or whatever, but just kind of a nice item. We can look at the rest of these here, see if there's anything specific to pull out. We've got Elvis's movie debut, obviously, Love Me Tender. Another one on the bike there. Oh, another one of the Fan's Friend. This one actually, yeah, that's kind of warped. A copy of that. Tux for TV. So this, again, this would have been the Steve Allen show. Again, he didn't want the actual real Elvis. He wanted a more polished, sort of sanitized version of Elvis Presley for his show. So yeah, some of those there. Let's see, what else do we have over here? Just gonna flip through these. Radio broadcast, another one with the dog. See, when they get these dots, that's really brutal to me. Dog again, terrible centering there. Terrible centering there. This is probably one of the worst cards in the set. I don't even know. it makes me wonder sometimes, like when you're designing a set of cards, I know this was like 70 years ago, but why, there's got to be somebody like a quality assurance person that just comes along and says like, this is not a card we need. Why, I don't know why we need Elvis eating lunch, but I don't know. Maybe this is somebody's card that they like, but looks like he's got maybe a, let's see if we can figure out what he's eating. Maybe like a carton of milk, a piece of cornbread or some type of muffin or something. I'm not sure what is in that bowl. But yeah, so this must have been on the filming here. Let's see what he said on the back here. So all these have a question, and this one says, are there problems being so popular? There are a few, and they're hardly worth mentioning. But there's one thing though, when I make a statement, I sometimes get misunderstood. People hear you differently at times, like take the sentence, how are you? Now you could say it a couple different ways, just try it. See how people could think you meant different things by a simple statement. As a celebrity, you have to watch whatever you say, okay? I don't know if he actually said any of this stuff or if they just, like somebody just wrote this for him or just whatever, but yeah, maybe he did, I don't know. Some of them do sound like, you know, answers he would give based on my limited knowledge, but yeah, let's see if there's any other interesting questions here. How'd you like being on TV shows? Is rock and roll here to stay? Okay, let's see this one. Is rock and roll here to stay? I don't think there's any doubt about that. I love the rhythm and beat of good rock and roll music, and I think most people like it too. After all, it's a combination of folk or hillbilly music and gospel singing, and both those forms of music have been popular for a long time. Most people I know like rock and roll because it gives them a feeling of freedom and really starts feet moving and toes tapping. Okay. So this is a sad one here. Would you ever perform in Europe? I sure would. Everyone who ever played in Europe raves about the people they meet, the wonderful audiences, and the interesting places to visit. I'd love to see what Europe is like. In school, you learn about European history, and sometimes it sounds sort of unreal because it seems so far away. I can definitely, that resonates. I know I'd get a tremendous kick out of seeing the castles, cathedrals, and town I've read about in school. And if you know Elvis, or know about Elvis, you know he never got the chance to play overseas or play internationally because his manager, you know, Tom Parker, was not a citizen, so he was worried if he went overseas with Elvis, he wouldn't be allowed back in the country. So we never got to see what those performances would have been like, which is truly a shame because I imagine those audiences and those crowds would have been just absolutely wild. And I wish for him that he could have had that experience to play in Japan, to play in Germany, to play in the UK, and all that sort of stuff. Because can you imagine seeing those videos, like if they existed? I mean, the shows now are awesome, but everybody, like in those Vegas shows they talked about, it's just mostly a bunch of rich people sitting on their hands in the front row. It was, you know, but if you go overseas and you're getting these huge, massive crowds in these stadiums with these people just going wild, that would have been really, really tremendous footage and, you know, really great for us to see now. But yeah, it's what, you know, it is what it is. What could have been, it will always be, all that sort of stuff. So now when I talk about the best cards in the set, like this is definitely one of them. And this is card number 2. So this is the first quote unquote self-titled or just plain Elvis Presley card. The first one here, you got the Go Go Elvis. I do think this is probably still pretty, I mean, the most quote unquote important or significant, if you want to use that word, card in the set. I think then the next one after that is a card I haven't shown yet, but I think this would be number 3. This is a album checklist. So initially I thought of it just as more of a checklist, but it's more of a record collector's checklist, as you see there. This is, you know, all his early big hits. You get the RCA Victor logo down there. I thought this was another core reason that I bought this lot, because I wanted a couple copies of this. I realized after I got it that number 2 in the record is colored in, which sucks, but you know, it is what it is. it's still a nice looking copy. I mean, that will bother me a little bit, and I'll probably eventually try to get like a more pristine copy of this, but this one's pretty nice. Decent centering, not very good, but not terrible. Surface is nice, guitar is nice, no major imperfections on that one. There was another copy here I'll show you in this lot. Let's see here, of card number 2, the album checklist. And this one's pretty good too, except it has just a little print dot on his tooth. And I have another copy that I bought previously that has just a small print dot on his hair, I believe it was. So if I can get this one out. Okay, yeah. So yeah, this is really hard to see. This one actually might be like pretty nice now that I think about it. You can just see that slight little print dot on his tooth. So, but not terrible. Pretty nice copy overall. I probably still would grade that one. And actually, now that I look at it, that little dot doesn't really bother me too much. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I'd call that the kind of the most, or third most important card in the set, behind number 1, and then another card. So that was that. Those two. This card I think is pretty significant. America's Top Singer, just because it's another solo sort of quote-unquote character card, quote-unquote portrait card, whatever you want to call it. This is number 46, so that was a big part of it. These 4 cards, this card, so this was probably, I'd say, like half the value of the entire lot, and then these, probably the rest of it, and then some of these others would have been too, but they're just so damaged that it's not really going to matter. There's some nice other ones in here. These are all in like decent condition. I did a big write-up on this card on Instagram the other day. That's a cool one. But yeah, so there's definitely tiers to the set, sort of significant, different levels of significance, as you would say. Just like any set, though. I mean, most of these, when you have one of these sets where it's like, all the cards are featured, or all the cards are about the same person, there's always just going to be 1, 2, 3 cards that stand above the rest. Typically, it's card number 1. If you think about like that old Batman set, it's usually card number 1. If you think about like the Brady Bunch set, all those types of things. So just kind of the same thing here. But yeah, definitely got some at the bottom, some in the middle, some at the upper end, and then a few at the top. So yeah, I think we'll call it good today. That's already like 33 minutes of Elvis content for you. So hope everybody's doing well. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the new subscribers. Appreciate all the people that reached out to me on Instagram, sent me messages after I was talking with Dave. Again, make sure you go subscribe to Dave's podcast. It's really good stuff, and I think there's just really a lot of value in following what he's doing. So yeah, that'll be that. Appreciate it. Hope everybody's doing well. Take care, and we'll see you again soon. Later.